Okay, this is the second part of Monday's lesson. So what I'm going to go over now is the very last thing that we did before we left. So this would have been Friday, March 13th's lesson. So this is a review of that. So now that you know how to calculate average, you can also find the total from the average. So I'm going to go back to these circles with beans. Now I don't obviously have real beans right now, but just say for a moment that we had the 5 circles on our paper and there were beans in the circles, but I don't know exactly how many are in each circle. There might be 2 beans in this circle, there might be 5 in this one, there could be 9 in that one, 1 in this one, 3, I don't know. But I do know that that the average number of beans per circle is 10. So if I were to rearrange all the beans evenly, there would be 10 in each circle. Although that's not how many there are, that's the average. So can I find the total number of beans if I'm given the average? Well, sure. You probably can already tell me how I can do that. To find the total number of beans, all I need to do is take my average and multiply it times the number of items. So I have our number of groups. I'm going to take my average and I'm going to multiply it times the number of items or groups here. So my average is 10 and the number of groups I have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 times 5 is 50. That's a total number of beans that I have here. That's as simple as that. That's how you calculate total when you're given the average. Let me show you another example. So I'm going to erase this. And let's say that I have a stack of 20 books. And I've stacked them together so that their spines are facing me. And I've noticed that their spines are varying degrees of thicknesses. So I'm just going to draw like a long rectangle here to stand for this stack of 20 books that I have. And all of the books are different levels of thicknesses. So I might have, a super thin book at the bottom, then there might be a really thick one on top of that, then maybe sort of a medium thickness, next, and then a super, super thin one, and so on, all varying degrees of thicknesses, until I get up to 20 books. So I have 20 books total, so I'll just sort of bracket this and say, here's 20 books of varying degrees of thicknesses. Now I know that the average thickness in inches of each of these books is 1.5 inches. So when I added all of those up, divided by 20, I got that the average thickness was 1.5 inches. So what's the total thickness of these books? How many inches in total do all of these books, when I add them together, equal to? The whole stack, you could say. So again, the total is going to be equal to the average multiplied by the number of items. So my average, I said, was 1.5 inches. So there's my average. Now the number of items, I told you there were 20 books, so I'm just going to multiply that times 20. And you should easily calculate that the total thickness of these books is 30 inches. So that's another example of how you calculate the total from the average. Okay, let's look at a couple of example problems in your textbook again. So hopefully this is very familiar to you, because like I said, this is exactly what we did before we left. So now we're going to look at page 41 in your textbook, and we're going to try a couple of problems where, again, we're taking the average, and from the average, we're finding the total. So this is number 7 on page 41, and it says, Jesse's average score for 5 tests is 74.6. Find his total score. Okay, so again, average is 74.6. So the total, to calculate the total, we're going to take his average and we're going to multiply it times the number of items here, which is 5 tests. So that's simple. 74.6 times 5. Now you are going to have to go off to the side and do the algorithm for this. So 74.6 times 5 gives you 30, and then that's going to give you 23. Okay, so his total number of points that he scored for all 5 of these tests is 373 points. Okay, so that's an example of finding the total from the average. It's that simple. All right, let's try another one. Let's look at number 8 on page 41. So number 8 says, Warner spent an average of $4.65 per day for 8 days. How much did he spend altogether? Well, it's pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and take our average, which was $4.65 per day. And to find the total, we're going to multiply our average times the number of items, or in this case it would be 8 days. So we're going to multiply 465 times 8. And when you do that algorithm, you should find that he spent a total of $37.20. And you know, you can, again, I always say check your answer to make sure it's reasonable. So you could do some estimating before you even calculate. You can think, okay, well, I'm going to round $4.65 to $5. $5 times 8 days gives me $40. Here's my answer, $37.20. That's very close to my estimate, so that's a reasonable answer. Okay. I think those are the main examples from your textbook on calculating total from the average. So at this point, what I've just done in these 2 videos is I've just reviewed the first 3 lessons in this unit on calculating average. So these are the last 3 lessons that we did before we left. And you've already done the workbook pages that go along with this. But I chose to review these lessons because I feel like, again, it's been 2 weeks since you have been here. So, we need to do some review. And so I have typed up a sheet on finding averages where you're just practicing these skills of, first of all, finding the average, and then secondly, finding the total from the average. So you should be able to print out a double-sided sheet, and I'd like for you to do both sides of this sheet Monday for homework. Now, I don't normally give this much, but because this is review, I'm hoping you'll be able to, work through these efficient. I mean, don't rush, of course. You want to make sure that your work is correct, accurate, but you should, since this is a review, you should be able to work through the front and the back of this really, fairly efficiently. So, and also, I want to make sure that, look at your units, make sure that you have units in your answers, and you don't need to write a complete sentence. It's not necessary. Just calculate your answers, check to make sure that they're reasonable. Remember, your average, when you're calculating average, it cannot be less than the lowest amount. Can't be greater than the highest. And then calculate your totals. And then I'd like for you, when you're done, Tuesday, we'll check over those answers. Okay? I hope you have a great day.